Chapter 11, Doing a 180. Did you know 1991 Stadium Club was the first borderless baseball card to be issued by a major card company? Many are the plans in the mind of a man, but it is the purpose of the Lord that will stand. Proverbs 19:21. As I was upstairs on my computer making arrangements to purchase an airplane ticket to fly out and make the largest single acquisition for my Conseco collection ever, I decided to go downstairs and talk it over with Holly one last time. We had discussed this purchase several times over the previous few months, but I wanted to talk to her one last time before going forward with it all. I'm a firm believer that you cannot go into something this huge if your spouse is against you doing so. The discussion with her went similarly to the previous conversations we had. She was not feeling the love for the collection like I was, but said if I was praying about it and felt God was okay with it, then she was okay. The stars were aligned and the doors were all opened. The problem? I had this nagging feeling that something wasn't quite right. Like something was tugging on my conscience to pay attention to the still small voice. I may have heard it before regarding the subject, but perhaps I just wasn't ready to listen, or didn't want to. A month or so prior to this, I had gone as far as making a list of pros and cons of stopping collecting. The pros outweighed the cons by a long shot, but if I'm being honest, I think my obsession just blinded me. I can't quite explain it, but sitting in my living room with Holly that night, I felt like going through with the one thing that I wanted the most would be a selfish endeavor. Just like that, I had an overwhelming sense that purchasing the collection was not what God wanted me to do. Many have told me that God doesn't care about baseball cards. Let me assure you of something. If it takes your eyes off of Him, He absolutely does care about baseball cards. In a matter of moments, I went from looking at plane tickets to telling Holly I no longer felt right about making the purchase. With my mind going a mile a minute, I started thinking to myself, if I'm not buying this collection, then what am I still doing collecting? There's nothing else left for me to accomplish. Almost in the same breath, I said words that I would never have dreamed would have come out of my mouth. Maybe I should just go ahead and sell my collection as well. Did I just say that out loud? What was I thinking? Years of dedication and just like that, gone? How can I go from one extreme to another within minutes? Holly looked shocked and then smirked. I'm not going to tell you what to do either way. You do what you feel God is leading you to do. Just like that, on the evening of June 8th, 2018, I made the decision to walk away from the thing that I had been passionate about for so long. Reassurance from God. I contemplated quitting collecting a number of times over my collecting career. I always wondered what it would feel like. Would I be letting people down? Would they be disappointed in me? What regrets would I have? Haven't I passed the point of no return? How hard would it be to sell everything? I then realized that it wasn't hard at all. Deciding to quit wasn't a long, arduous road. Quitting happened once I decided to do so. Throughout all of Saturday, I felt a huge amount of peace like I hadn't felt in a long time. I didn't feel the compulsion to check my phone every 2 minutes and check eBay. I didn't have any deals going, nor did I feel compelled to stay on top of social media. It was like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders that I didn't know was there to begin with. It was at that moment that I felt like I had been running a marathon and was finally able to stop. The strange thing was that it never felt like a burden while I was collecting until I had stopped. I was just having fun. Sunday, however, was a different story. I had a horrible feeling about it all that morning. I asked God to give me clear direction on what to do because I considered slipping back into it all again. Later that morning, we went to church, and I found myself sitting in the pew listening intently to what Pastor John had to say. Late into the message, his words hit me like a ton of bricks. He said, "Collectors," because we're really good in our society about being collectors. Collectors. Depending upon what you collect, how rabid you are about it, how much it costs, it may be inappropriate. He went on to talk about a guy who collected sleigh bells but didn't own a sleigh or a horse. He would spend thousands of dollars and travel all over the world looking for more sleigh bells. To say this sermon was applicable to me would be an understatement. He went on to ask the congregation, "Are there any collections you need to sell?" All of this was simply too much to take in. My eyes almost popped out of my head. Snickering to ourselves after hearing that, I dug my fingers into Holly's leg as to control my laughter. I thanked God for his clear sign to me that I had made the right decision. Since I told this to others, some have suggested that perhaps Holly asked our pastor to say something. Rest assured, that's not the case. On the car ride home, we told Atticus about my decision and what all had transpired. Then Holly turned to me and told me the rest of the story. "So," she said, "here's something I haven't told you yet. I've been praying that God show you if you're supposed to sell your collection, even before you mentioned it or considered selling. It's truly amazing to me how good God is, and I'm overjoyed with how it happened so I can share it with everyone else. Let this be a reminder for you as well. Always pray for your spouse. If you're a super collector or aspiring to be one, you may be tracking with me when I say there's a compulsion to keep your phone on you at all times and check for new listings anytime you get a free moment. eBay, ComC, the forums, various social media platforms, and several other websites were all places that funneled cards into my collection, so I kept a vigilant watch on all of them. The anxiety of losing a card I needed to someone else kept me alert at all times. Documenting all of my stories, memories, and collection on my website has helped make it easier for me to walk away. The community's positive feedback has greatly enhanced my journey. What everyone has written to me over the years has given me a tremendous amount of joy in this chapter of my life. I can look back at my super collecting journey with no regrets of walking away. I have no worries that I left anything to conquer on the table because I squeezed every drop of satisfaction and enjoyment I possibly could from my collection. I want to make it clear that I'm not condemning collecting. My addictive personality made super collecting an unhealthy lifestyle for me due to the amount of brain space it took. I do urge you, however, to take a moment to think long and hard about where you are in your collecting journey and where you are in life. If you feel that you have sunk into a situation you can't get out of, I encourage you to take the steps necessary to break free from the addiction. Perhaps God has brought me through this journey to help you along in your journey. I would be overjoyed to hear if my story has helped you in some way, shape, or form. Inspiring people the wrong way. Over the past few years, many people have written to me saying how I am an inspiration to them on a daily or weekly basis. This was also very flattering, but also very disconcerting. Throughout the past few years, I've noticed an epidemic of people posting pictures online of unopened packages saying they were hiding their quote-unquote epic mail days from their wives. When I say epidemic, I mean it too. It was almost as if every grown man collecting baseball cards would regularly hide their collecting addiction from their spouse. I even witnessed the destruction of a marriage that was made very public on social media. It wasn't the only divorce I've heard of due to baseball cards either. That doesn't even get into the other potential relationship issues that can happen between a husband and wife due to a cardboard addiction. To think that I may have had a hand in such things by inspiring people to spend beyond their means is terrifying to me. Everybody wants to make an impact in people's lives. To be called an inspiration by so many was wonderful, but I always wondered if that very inspiration was harmful. I have a tremendous amount of gratitude for everyone who has had a hand in helping me land the best Conseco cards out there, but I also harbor guilt that it may have steered people down the wrong path. Collecting baseball cards and directing others to collect baseball cards is not my mission in life. My mission in life is to glorify God. As a Christian, I believe this takes many forms. From leading others into a relationship with Jesus, to making disciples of the nations, to feeding and clothing the poor, to loving and caring for your family. I have found that obsessively collecting has the potential of being the antithesis of all these things I hold so dearly. I have probably had more fun than anyone else in this hobby of ours, but I deeply regret if my passion is rubbed off negatively on anyone. As with anything in life, there's such thing as too much of a good thing. A bowl of ice cream is a blessing. 10 bowls of ice cream is diabetes. Going public. About 3 weeks after I decided to retire from super collecting and sell out, I posted an article along with a video online. I prayed a lot. I prayed that God would use my story to help others in some way. I didn't quite know what to expect after I went public, but the response was overwhelming. Over the next few weeks, tens of thousands of people viewed my article, and hundreds of people wrote to me. Almost everyone who reached out to me was very positive. Advice varied from, "Good for you," to "At least keep a couple cards," to "Don't do it." I'll admit, I was worried about the responses I would get. A lot of people said they were sad and shocked. Some even suggested my decision was due to financial troubles, while others speculated that Holly gave me an ultimatum. I have no idea where either of these ideas came from, but nothing can be further from the truth. Anyone who says otherwise doesn't have a leg to stand on. I was absolutely floored by how many people actually cared. I had no idea so many people were so emotionally invested into my journey. So much so that many reached out to me to let me know that due to my article, they were planning on completely rethinking things in life. Others told me they were battling addiction in other areas of their life and decided to take immediate action. This was not limited to collecting either. I was so grateful to hear that my journey and story had touched people in such a way that it could mean a dramatic lifestyle change for them. A lifestyle change that could ultimately lead to a more positive future for them and their families. The week I announced my retirement, I had another surprise. The internet collecting community was buzzing about my news. Various hobby-related blogs and news outlets were reporting it, and I was a topic of discussion on many podcasts. People were requesting interviews with me, and an Emmy Award-winning television sports storyteller contacted me to do a news piece on my story. While the majority of what people were saying was positive, I remember one such podcast was quite the opposite. In what seemed to be a 15-minute profanity-laced tirade, the host of the show decided to rip me to shreds. While all of the buzz that my announcement made was incredibly fun to experience, the hard work was ahead of me, selling the largest unique Jose Canseco baseball card collection on the planet.